Hi everyone, my name is Triya and I am a doctor working in London. I graduated from Oxford Medical School earlier this year. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to write a personal statement, and I'll be using tips and tricks that I used in my personal statement, which I used to apply to Oxford Medical School and also to Imperial College London, King's College London and Queen Mary's. Today I'm going to be talking about the 5 steps that you need to do to write the best personal statement to get into medical school. So these are the tips that I used to write my personal statement to get into medical school, but they can also be used more generally to write personal statements to get into any subject. So step 1 is to think about why you want to study the subject. For example, why do you want to study medicine? To start off with, you should write a bullet point list of the reasons why you want to study the subject. And now these can be anything, because remember, not everything that you write here is going to go into your personal statement. But this is more about getting your thoughts flowing and to give you some ideas about what to write in your personal statement. So this list can be as silly as you want. For example, you might want to study medicine because you watched House or Grey's Anatomy on TV. So for some bonus points, write down the skills and the qualities that you think you have that make you a good applicant or a good future doctor. For example, you might have really good leadership skills because you've been the captain of your netball team and you've taken the team to nationals. So when you've got your list of reasons, take a look at them and highlight the ones that you think are the best reasons and the ones that you want to include in your personal statement. Now, if you have a very emotive or personal story for the reason that you want to study the subject, for example, you want to study medicine because you witnessed someone getting CPR in a shopping mall one time. Now, these are really good reasons for you personally, but generally medical school interviewers don't like to read these in personal statements, so instead try to think of other reasons that you might want to study medicine. For example, maybe you really love human biology and talking to different people is the best part of your day. Step 2 is to write about the things that you've done that will strengthen your application for this course. To start off with, write a list of everything that you've ever done that is remotely related to the course that you're applying for. This could be things that you've done in school. For example, you have won an academic prize, you've won an essay competition, or you've taken part in an Olympiad. Then write about things that you've done that have helped you further your interest. For example, maybe you have read some books that have furthered your interest in medicine. So these things are what we call supercurricular activities. So once you've added those things, then add to your list any work experience that you've done that's related to your field. For medicine work experience, remember that it's not about what fancy hospital you've been to or how many weeks of work experience you've managed to get. It's more about what you've learned from your experiences and whether you've really considered the realities of being a doctor. When you're starting off with this list, you may not think that you've done very much towards your course, but once you've written down all of these different things, you'll find that you've actually done more than you think. Or maybe you've done this list and you've realised that actually you haven't read any books about medicine, or you haven't actually managed to get any work experience. So now is the time to fill in the gaps. So step 3 is making a structure. Now that you've got this long bullet point list of why you want to study your subject and the things that you've done, this step is about putting those together and making a rough structure for your personal statement. Often it's quite daunting to have a blank page when you're writing a personal statement, so having this sort of loose structure will help you just get the ball rolling on writing. For example, I'm going to talk to you about the structure that I used for my UCAS personal statement that got me into Oxford Medical School. I started off with an introduction paragraph about why I want to study medicine. Then I had a paragraph which is reflections about my work experience and my volunteering. The next paragraph was about my academic interests, so this was A-level subjects, EPQ, further reading. And then I talked about supercurricular activities. These were things like leading my school's medical society, tutoring younger kids, and winning academic prizes. Then I had a small paragraph about sporting and musical activities, and finally rounded it all off with a conclusion. So that's just an example of a structure that you can use. Obviously this can be personal to you, but make sure that you're hitting all the key points that we discussed before. So step 4 is to write your first draft. Now you've got a list of everything you want to include and a rough structure, so you really just have to get going and start typing. I think the best way to do it is write in short bursts of 15 to 20 minutes. Now the important thing with the first draft, just allow yourself to write everything that comes to your mind. Don't try to edit or hold yourself back. Often it's really hard not to give into the temptation to edit your work, but if you stop and you edit whilst you're writing, often you lose the flow or you lose your train of thought. The good thing about this way is that you'll have a lot of content to work with to trim down eventually, and it's always easier to trim down than it is to add in new content. So step 5 is the most important step, and it's to edit your work. to edit and then rewrite as long as it takes. As most writers will tell you, the real magic comes in the editing, not in the writing. Now, don't be disheartened if this step takes a long time. For me personally, I had about 12 drafts of my personal statement before I was happy with the final version. And I sent these drafts to my parents, to teachers and friends, anyone who wanted to read it really. But remember, you don't have to listen to everyone's advice because ultimately it is your personal statement. So those are the 5 steps that I would recommend using to write your personal statement. Be prepared to talk about any part of your personal statement at interview. And when you're editing, make sure that every single sentence you keep in your personal statement says something good about why you're a good candidate or why you want to study the subject, because ultimately you have a very short number of characters to sell yourself. I hope this helps, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.